Sharks fall 4-1. They allow goals in all three periods. A little bit of a concern that themes we saw today were things that hurt the Sharks last season. Like simply not scoring enough goals. And I think there were other things that were positives, the way James Reimer played, the way the penalty kill looked. Also, though, on a negative side, allowing early goals. I've got some notes here. I'll try and make sense of all of this as we go. But did the Sharks today look too much like the Sharks of literally yesteryear? Early period goals. Now, they count the same. It's still only one goal. Does it matter if they scored a minute in or 7 minutes in or 12 minutes in? I suppose it doesn't. But when it sets a tone like that for the rest of the period, either beginning of the game or you just came out of the room and all of a sudden, you're having to chase the scoreboard, it mentally counts as more than one goal. I think on a positive side, the Sharks penalty kill got obviously tested today. You don't want that to always be the case, but it was a perfect 4 for 4. And that was a great theme of last season. San Jose had the second best penalty kill in the league, clicking at 85%. But you don't want to have to hold that bar all the way that high again this season. You'd rather have your special teams balance out. You'd rather have your power play be able to contribute some goals. Sharks were 0 for 4 on the man advantage. The Sharks will be competitive in games. If they play like they did tonight, they'll be there. But if they don't score, and if they don't get it from a multitude of places, that might pose them some problems. And on that note of scoring goals, let's get right into Tomas Hertl's goal. How special was that? Honestly, of all the Sharks things we've watched over the years, and when he buried it, you're like, first period, first game, all the attention on him and the emotion that he displayed. Brownie said it best. It looked like he had just scored a playoff goal, which we've seen plenty of over the years, right? His emotion, his reaction, it meant that much to know that all of his family there, I'm imagining dozens, if not hundreds, of Hertls and Hertl relatives in attendance. James Reimer was solid. James Reimer made multiple grade A stops that kept this game from honestly finishing at a 6-1 final score. Like I would not have been surprised. Some of the looks that Nashville got, whether they were on a breakaway or in tight, I had several that I marked down, especially one on Johansson. I think that was in the second period. But this is it's a testament to James Reimer. It's the reason that he got the first game of the season. And Kähkönen had 10 games with San Jose last year. We'll figure out what he is to become. We'll figure that out. And I hope there's a lot of upside. Look, the Sharks had the opportunity to keep him or to keep Adin Hill, and they went with Kähkönen. They've seen something in Capo. So you'd have to imagine he'll get his opportunity tomorrow. But as for James Reimer, I said at the beginning here, some stories of last season repeated. Yeah, that's true. Trouble scoring, only getting it from select places. The penalty kill was good. Reimer's a part of that. But, even at even strength, that's pretty tricky. Even at even strength, James Reimer's just going to continue to keep him in games. I look at James Reimer as being one of the Sharks' best players in this game, which is, again, good. You don't want to make that be a bad thing. You don't want to play that as a bad angle. That's a good angle. And I hope Kähkönen can, continue the conversation, put the pressure on Reimer in his opportunity. But here's the deal. You want to go and reward Reimer for those types of efforts. And I think this is the frustration of not being able to score tonight and in the last couple of years. For how many seasons in a row the Sharks could always get in these track meets and always be fine and always have no problem scoring goals. Now we find them in some of these lean years, and it's frustrating because even on the nights where they play pretty good defensively, they can still lose a game 2-1, 3-1. That 2 or fewer thing is starting to bite them. Speaking of tomorrow, William Eklund and Thomas Bordeleau, they're on this trip. They didn't play in that preseason game against the Ice Baron in Berlin, and they did not play game 1 of the season tonight. Now, as I mentioned before, rosters are expanded. 27 can travel here. So I'm wondering if they were brought for the opportunity as a reward, had a good training camp, you can be around this stuff, or are they being brought out there to play in a game? Because at this point, they're only going to play tomorrow or that's it. And there's a lot of high hopes for Eklund and Bordeleau. I think too, though, put pressure on them to be the goal scorers. Like, oh, all of a sudden we found our scoring way with these two. That's not it. They're going to be great players, right? At some point in the near future. But the timing is everything with them right now. How to manage the opportunity. When do you put them in? When do you know how to tail them back if you're going to do that? What are you going to do next? What if they struggle? Do they go to the Barracuda? Do you scratch them for a few games? What do you do, and how do you do this? I think we all understand kind of where the path is going to end up with these two players. And Ryan Merkley eventually too, who right now has started his season with the Barracuda. It's a matter of how do you get them to that spot in the best and most productive journey and path. Still way too early, and I'm sure there were some confounding variables to the game tonight affecting both teams, but would like to see the Sharks come back strong tomorrow. Matt, that is a great point. Actually, that's several great points right there. I should have started this live stream the same way I started our post-game show on TV. Neither team qualified for the playoffs tonight with their victory in Prague, right? Nothing has been determined. And tonight's game was such a bunch of different variables and things that are not normal, not to mention the first game of every season kind of feels a little bit wonky. Sharks don't have a tier 1 game-breaking player. The good teams who don't have that, example the Blues, have elite scoring depth. Sharks currently do not appear to have that yet either. I think that's my biggest observation from last season and moving forward to watch out for. I'm not saying we're there yet. We don't know this Sharks group yet. But an area of concern is how deep can they be scoring? Going back to last year, between Timo and Logan and Tomas, that was like 70-something% of all the goals they scored. Is that right? 60 or 70%, a high volume, a ridiculous amount. You need it from more places, different lines. You need it from your defensemen. I would agree that scoring depth is one thing they lack. I don't know about that tier 1 game-breaking player. I think that first off, not every team even has one of those. Like, that's more of a unicorn than having scoring depth, right? If you're talking tier 1, I know the Connor McDavid level of player you're talking about there. How many teams have that? 5, 7? Wait, not even close to half the league. But you can't rely on that. Those are hard to come by. They're hard to keep. You'd hope to develop one, but that's, you know what the chances are there. You need that second thing. You need elite scoring depth. That's what the Sharks used to have. Think about all the 2000s and the 2010s and making the playoffs year after year. Because if Patty didn't score, Pavelski did, or Ryan Claude did, or Setaguchi did, or Dan Boyle would jump in a play and score a goal. You know what I'm saying? It was obviously a different era of Sharks hockey, but they sometimes only had to worry about if their defense was good enough, if they could lock down opponents because they could score and stay right in games. Nowadays, it's almost the reverse problem. Aaron says, to me, it's a win if we split this trip with Nashville. I would have to agree with you. I think looking at who the Sharks are playing, who the Sharks are, how much transition they're already in, new coach, new everything. I mean, even down to the jerseys are new. And Nashville, excuse me, falling apart here. Nashville was a playoff team last year. They have 97 points last year. Even with 97 points, they finished 5th in the Central. And they actually only lost in the first round of the playoffs to, guess who? The Stanley Cup winner, Colorado Avalanche. Since you mentioned those three, I'll tell you who, and this is weird to say, I hope they don't lead the team in goals. Logan, Tomas, and Timo. Now, wait a second. I love these guys, all personally and individually, and that's really rude and inaccurate of me to say, well, I hope they don't lead the team in goals. No, that's not it. I hope somebody challenges them for those top 3 spots, right? If you ask me who I think will do it, I think it's those 3. but I hope like 4 other players make it really interesting. Cunning scored some goals. Maybe this is the year for Noah Gregor to bury some chances, and all of a sudden he's in the 25-goal conversation. Love to see Erik Karlsson get on a scoring touch. So, that's the reality of what I think, those 3. But the hope is that it gets a little bit more interesting. My answer wouldn't be so easy. That's really what I'm looking for, is so that it's not an easy thing for me to answer that question.